Number 10. Lunge atop a skyscraper. I have always suspected that this was a fake or manipulated photo, but it's the real thing. The legendary photograph was taken by daredevil photographer Charles Ebbets, on September 29, 1932. The photo shows 11 workers having a lunch break on the 69th floor of the RCA building, now the G building, in New York, during the last months of construction. Most of the men have now been identified by family members. The men at the extreme left and extreme right are Matty O'Shaughnessy and Patrick, Sonny, Glenn, both from County Galway, Ireland. The two immigrants had left Shaneyglish and Galway in the 1920s destined for a new life in America. The man sitting fourth from the right is Francis Michael Rafferty, and to his right is his lifelong best friend Stretch Donahue. On the same day, Ebbets took another photo of the same workers called Men Asleep on a Girder, which shows the same workers napping on the beam. You can see it here. Interesting fact, the photo credit on posters was listed as unknown for many years. The copyright owner of the photograph did not recognize Charles C. Ebbets as the photographer until 2003, after months of investigation by a private investigation firm. The photo has also been frequently misattributed to Louis Hine, whose photographs documented the construction of the Empire State Building, in 1931. Number 9. We Can Do It. This poster was created by American graphic artist J. Howard Miller. In 1941, Miller's work came to the attention of the Westinghouse Company, and he was hired to create a series of posters to sponsor the company's War Production Coordinating Committee. This poster is commonly called Rosie the Riveter, however at the time of the poster's release that name wasn't associated with the picture. That came a year later when a popular patriotic song called Rosie the Riveter came out. The poster became a symbol for women who produced war supplies and took new jobs, replacing the male workers who were in the military. Miller based the We Can Do It poster on a United Press International picture taken of Geraldine Doyle working at a factory. Ironically, Doyle only lasted 2 weeks on the job before quitting because she feared a hand injury would prevent her from playing her cello. The poster did not become widely known until the 1970s and 80s, when it began to be used by advocates of women's equality in the workplace. Interesting fact, Geraldine Doyle, who was the inspiration behind the now famous poster, died last year at the age 86. Doyle didn't know she was the model for the poster until 1984, when she came across an article in Modern Maturity magazine, now known as AARP. Number 8. Farrah Fawcett. When this photo was taken, Fawcett was still an unknown actress. She had not yet signed on for the hit show Charlie's Angels, but got some work doing commercials. Her agents wanted a bikini shot of Fawcett and hired freelance photographer Bruce McBroom, who had worked with her before. The shot was taken by a pool at Fawcett's Bel Air, California, home where she and her husband at the time, actor Lee Majors, lived. According to a friend, Fawcett styled her own hair and did her makeup without the aid of a mirror. She heightened her blonde highlights with lemon juice. McBroom used an old Indian blanket covering his car seat as a backdrop. She tried on several swimsuits, but when Fawcett finally tried on a red one-piece to cover a childhood scar on her stomach, McBroom knew he had something special. Fawcett selected her 6 favorite pictures out of 40 rolls of film, eventually narrowing her choice to the now famous picture. The 1976 poster of Farrah Fawcett sold a record-breaking 12 million copies. Interesting fact, this year on February 2nd, which would have been Farrah Fawcett's 64th birthday, the family donated several items to the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, including the infamous red bathing suit she wore in the famous pin-up poster. 7. Number 7. Lord Kitchener wants you. This famous recruitment poster depicting Secretary of State for War, Lord Kitchener, first appeared on September 5, 1914, on the cover of the London Opinion. During that month the country had its highest number of volunteers. The Parliamentary Recruiting Committee later obtained permission to use the design in a poster format. Kitchener organized the largest volunteer army that the UK had ever seen to fight Germany on the Western Front. In 1916, Lord Kitchener died when the warship taking him to negotiations in Russia was sunk by a German mine. After his death, Kitchener was often dismissed as a great poster but not a great administrator. However, After new records were opened, many historians now praise his strategic vision, especially for laying the groundwork for the expansion of munitions production and his central role in expanding the British Army. Interesting fact, the poster became the inspiration for the legendary Uncle Sam I Want You for the US Army poster, which America used in both World War I and II. It also inspired the famous Smokey the Bear Only You Can Prevent Forest Fires poster. Lord Kitchener Wants You. Kitchener Britain's this famous recruitment poster depicting Secretary of State for War, Lord Kitchener, first appeared on September 5, 1914, on the cover of the London Opinion. During that month the country had its highest number of volunteers. The Parliamentary Recruiting Committee later obtained permission to use the design in a poster format. Kitchener organized the largest volunteer army that the UK had ever seen to fight Germany on the Western Front. In 1916, Lord Kitchener died when the warship taking him to negotiations in Russia was sunk by a German mine. After his death, Kitchener was often dismissed as a great poster but not a great administrator. However, after new records were opened, many historians now praise his strategic vision, especially for laying the groundwork for the expansion of munitions production and his central role in expanding the British Army. Interesting fact, the poster became the inspiration for the legendary Uncle Sam I Want You for the US Army poster, which America used in both World War I and II. It also inspired the famous Smokey the Bear Only You Can Prevent Forest Fires poster. Number 6 Tennis Girl. This famous poster is simply called Tennis Girl, and was taken by Martin Elliott, in 1976. When the poster first went on sale it sold more than 2 million copies. Most likely most were bought by young teenage boys. The photo shows 18-year-old art student Fiona Butler, who was Elliott's girlfriend at the time, at the Birmingham University courts at Edgbaston. Fiona did not play tennis regularly, and had to borrow the dress and racket from a friend. She wore her father's Blimsol's early training shoes, and used her dog's tennis balls to scatter around the court. Elliott then persuaded her to let him take a shot of her hitching up her dress to reveal her bare bottom. Elliott sold the image rights to the poster company Athena, but retained the copyright and earned an estimated £250,000 in royalty payments. Fiona Butler did not receive any money from the poster. Interesting fact, this year, after more than 30 years and numerous refusals to pose again, Fiona decided to come forward to promote an exhibition on lawn tennis as a subject in art, which will be held at Birmingham's Barber Institute of Fine Arts this summer. She believes her picture has earned a place in the history of tennis. Fiona is now a 52-year-old mother of 3, and is married to a wealthy businessman. She has no regrets about posing for the photo, even though she has never earned a penny from it. Photographer Martin Elliott died last year at the age of 63. You can see what Fiona looks like today as she stands next to her famous poster here. Number 5 Albert Einstein. This famous photo and popular poster of Albert Einstein was taken March 14, 1951, by UPI photographer Arthur Sass. After an event at Princeton to honor Einstein on his 72nd birthday, Sass and other photographers were desperately trying to convince Einstein to smile for the camera. Einstein was in a car returning from the event and was tired of smiling all day. When the photographers didn't let him alone, he is said to have shouted, "That's enough, that's enough." When these words didn't deter the photographers, the reaction they received was even better. The photo became one of the most popular photos ever taken of Einstein. Interesting fact, Einstein liked the picture so much that he cropped it so only his face could be seen. Then he made several copies of it and sent the picture and greeting cards to friends. The original picture shows Einstein sitting in the back seat of a car between Dr. Frank Adelot, the former head of the Institute for Advanced Study, and his wife. Number 4 American Girl. In Italy, many will recognize this poster from seeing it in pizza joints around the world. It was taken by American photographer Ruth Orkin, in 1951. Orkin went to Israel on a photo assignment for Life magazine and from there went to Florence, Italy and met artist and fellow American Jenks Allen, now known as Nancy Craig. The two talked about their shared experiences traveling alone as young single women. Orkin then thought it would be interesting to take pictures of what it's really like. She titled the series of photographs "Don't Be Afraid to Travel Alone." Orkin photographed Alan shopping in the markets, crossing traffic, riding a carriage and flirting at a cafe. After Orkin saw Alan walking in the city square and being ogled by men, she asked her to walk through again. She took just 2 pictures, resulting in the now famous photo. Ruth Orkin died of cancer in 1985, at the age of 63. Interesting fact, the woman in the photo, Nunley Craig, is reported as saying, "I clutched my shawl to me because that sheathes the body. It was my protection, my shield. I was walking through a sea of men." Today Craig admits, "I was enjoying every minute of it. They were Italian and I love Italians." This year marks the 60th anniversary of the photograph. In 1950, Life magazine asked French photographer Robert Doisneau to do a photo spread about Paris lovers. After spotting a couple kissing, he approached them and asked them if they wouldn't mind kissing again for the camera. Françoise Delbart, 20, and Jacques Gart, 23, were both aspiring actors and were taken to 3 different places. First Doisneau took some pictures on the Place de la Concorde, then on the Rue de Rivoli, and finally the Hotel de Ville. After the picture appeared in Life magazine, it was forgotten for more than 30 years, and stayed in the archives of the photo agency where Doisneau worked. It was eventually snapped up by a poster company and became one of the world's best-selling posters. Because of the poster's success, many people made false claims as to being the kissing couple. In 1993, a couple took Doisneau to court demanding compensation for taking the picture without their knowledge. The lawsuit forced Doisneau to admit that the shot wasn't spontaneous, and he had used models for the picture. With this admission, the lawsuit was dismissed. After more than 40 years in obscurity, Françoise Delbart, now Mrs. Bournet, came forward with the original print, which bears the photographer's authentic signature and stamp that Doisneau sent her just a few days after the shoot. Interesting fact, less than a year after the picture was taken, the couple broke up. Françoise married Alain Bournet, a documentary and promotional filmmaker. Jacques Gart became a wine grower in the south of France until his death, in 2004. Robert Doisneau continued as a freelance photographer, until he died in 1994, 2 weeks shy of his 82nd birthday. In 2005, Françoise Bournet put the original print up for auction. She expected to receive about $25,000 for it. The winning bid was €155,000. Number 2 Che Guevara. This famous photo, known as Guerrillero Heroico, Heroic Guerrilla, was taken in Havana, Cuba, on March 5, 1960, by Alberto Corta. He snapped the photo when Guevara unexpectedly appeared on the stage for a brief moment, while Fidel Castro was eulogizing the victims of the La Cabra explosion. The two-tone portrait of Che Guevara was created in 1968, by Irish artist Jim Fitzpatrick. The image is rated among the world's top 10 most iconic images, right alongside the Mona Lisa. It has been reproduced throughout the world on posters, t-shirts and on any surface capable of holding an image. You can see the other photos Corta took on that day here. Interesting fact, because of what he called Cry's commercial utilization of the image, Fitzpatrick announced this year that he intended to copyright the image. He initially released it copyright-free for intended use among revolutionary groups in Europe. He plans to hand over the copyright to the Guevara family. Number 1 Ali Liston. This photograph and popular poster was taken by Sports Illustrated photographer Neil Leifer, who is considered one of the world's best sports photographers. This particular photo has an extra interesting fact about it, so I put it at the number 1 spot. On May 25, 1965, in Lewiston, Maine, Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston faced off for the second time. Ali, then Cassius Clay, won the first fight the previous year. The ending of the second fight remains one of the most controversial in boxing history. Halfway through the first round, Liston fell to the canvas, which many believe was not a legitimate knockdown. Ali then refused to go to a neutral corner. Instead, Ali stood over Liston, gesturing and yelling at him, "Get up and fight, sucker." It was then when Leifer snapped the now iconic photo. Interesting fact, Leifer said he was lucky to get the shot because he was in the right place. Sports Illustrated often sent out 2 photographers to cover boxing matches. For this match they assign Leifer and Herb Scharfmann, who was also one of the best. Leifer said this about Scharfmann in an interview: "It didn't make a difference how good he was obviously in the wrong seat." Herb Scharfmann is the photographer that can be seen between Ollie's legs in the famous photo. From 1963 to 1972, Scharfmann's photos appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated 14 times. May 25, 1965, just wasn't his night.